What's going on, YouTube? And I'm back with another video. Thank you for tuning in. As you can tell by that title and that thumbnail, I will be brushing out and dematting this gigantic doodle. He was very nervous coming in, but he was very sweet. So it took a little bit for him to get warmed up, but eventually he kind of got it and got the hang of getting on the table and getting off the table and just kind of stand on the table. As you can see, he is like vibrating because he was nervous. This is his first time here, and he's only 10 months old. So they've never gotten him groomed at this location before, but they've gotten him groomed in a private salon before. And I wouldn't say that they weren't happy with the groom, but they did tell me that they prefer him shaggy. So I kind of felt him over just to kind of see what I could do for him in order to keep his long coat and demat him like they wanted. Right now, I'm going to start him off with some basic prep work just to get him used to the table. So I'm going to be doing his paw pads, his nails, his sanitary. Because he is not used to the table, picking up his foot was like picking up like dead weight. He refused for me to lift his foot. So in the video, you'll see me struggle lifting his foot up just a bit, but eventually he let me do it. So, but he's a sweetheart. He's just really nervous. He's young. He's never been groomed before. And dematting a dog this young can be a lot for them, but he didn't have super extensive matting, but it was enough where he did need to take time in between brushing him out and being on the table. So right now what I'm doing is kind of brushing out some of the surface mats. So when I go in and I do the deep moisturizing shampoo and conditioner, it can help loosen up a lot of the mats that he has on his body. And when I originally felt him over, I only felt mats around his neck. I did not feel anything else, but he had little tangles kind of all over his body. And then he had a lot of matting around his feet where it kind of shows that he might bite at it or lick his feet a lot. Now, what I will say about him is he originally had 2 appointments. His first appointment he came in for, he was only set up for a bath because that's generally just what they wanted. But he had way too much matting around his neck for him to just get a bath. So he rescheduled his appointment with me so I can see what I could do for him, whether I was able to brush it out or whether I had to shave him down. Now, when I sent him home, I just want to give applause and praise to the pet parent because they brushed him out and didn't irritate his skin whatsoever. And they did a phenomenal job with brushing him out and loosening up some of the matting that he had around his neck. I also want to say that not all matting is brushable. A lot of it is, but not all matting is brushable. One, we have to determine whether the dog is going to be okay with it or if it's going to hurt them too much. And 2, we have to determine how extensive the matting is. Like I said, when he first came in, his matting was pretty extensive around his neck, but they took him home and they dematted him and they brushed out a good bit around his neck because he had 2 large clumps behind both of his ears, and they broke both of those down into small little knots. And that allowed me to give them more options on what they could do for him as opposed to just shaving him down because they did not want him shaved down. Now, if you have a dog that you brought to the grooming salon and you stated, hey, I know he has some mats, but are you able to demat the dog? 1, you have to be ready to pay for that dematting. 2, you have to be ready to pay for better quality products. You cannot ask us, hey, can you demat this dog? And then not be willing to pay what it's going to cost to demat your dog. And also, you have to be willing to understand that if the dog does not like the dematting process, if it's too painful, we're not going to demat the dog because groomers are taught to do what's best for the dog over vanity. But this owner was very understanding, and most of the time, dematting shouldn't cost that much depending on how much matting your dog has. But this owner was completely understanding, and him getting his dog dematted did not cost a lot. So this is the deep coat conditioner that I said I was going to do on him. It is the Chi Deep Moisturizing Shampoo and Conditioner. And essentially what it's tailored to is to go into those mats and break them apart from the mats that I weren't able to brush out during his prep work. And as you can see, it did a fantastic job. You can see some of the tangles that he had on his body, which, like I said, because of the chi, it loosened him up quite a bit. He had quite a bit around his neck that loosened up, and then he had some all over his body. Now I'm going to go in and brush out the rest of the mats that the chi was not able to get out during the bath and the blow drying process. But I will say it helped out tremendously, and it loosened up his knots, those little pin knots that you saw, because prior to that, the knots were a little bit bigger than that. It did not do the best job on his legs, but it loosened it up enough where it was away from the skin, where now that I'm brushing it out, I'm not brushing at his skin, I'm brushing on the mat, so it's kind of separating the fur. And for a 10-month-old puppy whose first time was today and his process is being dematted, he warmed up fairly quickly to me and to the grooming process, and he did phenomenal. Even this time getting back up on the table, I wasn't able to capture. He got right up on that table by himself, and he stood there. He knew the process and what was going to happen. And just the ease right there with lifting up his paw, he didn't give me any struggle. I could tell that he was learning pretty quickly about the grooming process, and he could tell that it wasn't killing him. So he did pretty well after this. Sometimes all it takes for dogs like this is getting that prep work out so they can understand that the table is not going to harm them, that all they have to do is just stand there and they won't fall off, for them to understand the grooming process. And I can tell that it really helped him. Now, it doesn't help every dog. Some dogs are generally just afraid of the table, but for this guy here, he did really well, and he was such a gentle giant. In light of this video being about dematting a dog, I do want to say, if you're ever going to demat your dog at home, the safest way, one, is to get the proper brush, and two, to hold the mat so you do not brush burn the dog's skin, because dematting is dangerous and you have to know what you're doing in order to do it properly. So if you want to demat your dog at home, let's say your dog has a mat on the ear, you want to hold the base of the mat and brush the mat, not hold the base of the ear and brush the mat, because essentially you're brushing the ear and the mat, and you're going to brush burn the dog's ear, and the dog's ear is going to start to bleed. So you hold the base of the mat, kind of how I just did in there, and you brush the mat out, and then you can go through and brush the rest of that out. Right there, I was pointing out to my employee his discoloration in his fur. He's such a gorgeous red color, and he has this one random streak of black fur. And it's so random because it's right on his paw. Usually we'll see a streak of white fur. It is very rare that you see a streak of black fur, but I thought that was kind of funny, so I pointed that out. He was still a bit nervous with being on the table, so anytime I got close to him, he would lean his whole body down on me just so that I can save him. But for the most part, he learned fairly quickly. He was doing really well with a lot of the brushing and combing that I had to do. Right now, I'm going through him with a hard metal comb, which I suggest everyone do that has a long haired doodle like this. But I'm going through him with a hard metal comb to find any tangles, mats, or anything left over. As you can see, I found one, so now I'm going to tackle it by holding the base of it and brushing the rest of that out. But a hard metal comb and a long pin slicker brush is something that everybody needs who has a doodle, because all doodles have thick fur. All of them. This one just so happened to shed a lot, but the majority of the doodles all have thick fur. He was really such a good boy, and he was so patient with the brushing. He just let me do whatever I needed to do, including spot shave a little mat out of his ear, because he did have a mat that I wasn't able to demat out, and I did inform the pet parent because I did have to shave it out, but it was too close to the back of his ear, and that skin behind the back of the ear is very thin and easily cut. Having to lift him up and down because he kept sitting, which it didn't bother me that he kept sitting. It burned my back. My back was burning by the end of this groom, but it was worth it because he turned out so cute. Here I'm going through his coat again with a hard metal comb just to find any leftover mats or tangles that I may need to brush out or shave out, which I'm about to spot shave the rest of that ear mat out because it was something little, something very slight, so it wasn't really noticeable. But as I stated earlier, going through your dog with a hard metal comb is very, very, very important, and it will help you out in the long run if you have any type of long hair drop coat dog. For anyone that knows me knows I love grooming doodles. I don't know what it is. I just love grooming them. I love how they turn out when they're done. I love the quote unquote doodle face. I just love them. They're really, really cute. They're one of my favorite breeds to groom next to schnauzers. I love grooming schnauzers and doodles. I could do that all day. Right now, I'm working on the mats around his neck, just making sure that all of the tangles are out around his neck and on top of his head. He didn't really have much on his head or his face, but he had a lot around his neck. So I'm just kind of going through with that comb again, making sure that all the tangles are out and going through with my dematting brush to get what I can out. That red brush that you see me carry, it's called the Mat Zapper. I recommend everyone get it. It's a little pricey, but it is so worth it. Every girl in my salon takes it from my station and uses it on their dogs if they need to demat something on their dogs because it's literally a mat zapper. One thing I will say is you have to be very careful with it because you can easily brush burn the dog with it because the bristles are so sharp, as well as prick yourself. I cannot tell you how many times I have stuck my finger with that brush, but I would not give it away. I wouldn't trade it because it really does the job. Now I'm getting ready to finish up on him. I'm scissoring his feet, just making them round for the pet parent, but I'm not taking them too close because again, he likes them really shaggy. So he kind of likes those really sock looking Grinch feet, but I'm just neatening them up a little bit for him so they're not sloppy looking. So he does look like he got groomed, but also still left shaggy. When you're scissoring a foot round, they say you're supposed to use your curves, but I use straight shears for everything. But essentially, you just want to scissor whatever hangs over the paw pad that is too wide and doesn't naturally align with the feet. And then you just round the front and you have your little curved foot. When I say I loved how he turned out, and he was just the sweetest boy ever. And I'm not usually a shaggy dog type of person, but he looked really cute when he was done with his little shaggy face, and it was so shaggy on top of his head. The owners loved it. The little girl seemed like she was about to cry, but the dad loved it. He said it was perfect and exactly what they were looking for. And I guess it was more of like a groomed shaggy look, not 100% completely shaggy, but more of like a tailored, fluffy, scruffy look. But he was adorable. Right here, he had a tangle in between his back toes. The only foot he had a tangle actually in between his toes, but he had a tangle in between his back toes, and he did not like me messing with it. So I had to get my comb to kind of comb it a bit just to see if I was able to demat it that way, or if I had to get my brush. As you can see, he's trying to lick the comb to stop me from doing what I'm doing, but eventually he let me get it, and he did just fine. My back was so tired from picking him up off the table when he decided to just sit randomly, but it was okay because I loved him. And there you have it. Handsome boy pilot. He did so great and he was so sweet. He was so curious about the camera, trying to figure out, what are you doing with that thing? I'm just trying to take a video of how handsome you look. But make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.